Hey, this is James and Mitchell, and in this video I'm going to go with a bit of a departure. I am going to be using a different type of deck other than tarot. In this video we're going to be featuring the Lenormand, and the Lenormand Oracle is a deck that I recently started working with since the end of last year. The card showed up in a dream, and those of you who know my story know that that's how I got involved with tarot, is when playing cards showed up in a dream. So I took it to be something significant because tarot cards were mixed in with the Lenormand cards in the dream. So I purchased a deck and started studying them. And while I haven't used a Lenormand yet in my professional practice, I have been reading for myself using the deck. And I have sometimes been working with fictitious people. So in this reading that I'm going to do, I'm going to be using a character from Days of Our Lives. His name is Will Horton. And in the storyline on Days of Our Lives, Will is trying to save his marriage. He had an affair with another person behind his husband's back, and it has now been revealed. And so I'm going to set it up where Will is going to come and see me, and vicariously you, because we're together. So Will's going to have a reading based on, his question is whether he can save his marriage or not. So in the next segment that follows this one, I'm gonna show you the cards that are going to represent the players in the drama, and then following that is going to be the actual reading. So stay tuned. So in this segment of the video, I just want to take a moment to kind of set things up. In the reading that we're about to go to, I'm going to be using the Malpertuis Lenormand. And the reason why I'm using this deck is because it has an extra man card. The man card in Lenormand represents a man in the reading. So this is going to represent the person coming to us, which is Will Horton from Days of Our Lives. He's coming to have a reading done. So one man card is going to represent him, and his question being about his marriage. On the show, Will is gay, and his husband is Sonny. So the other man card I'm going to use to represent Sonny. So this card here on the left is going to be Sonny, because Sonny on the show has dark hair, and the man on this card has dark hair, so I'm going to let that be Sonny. And like I said, the middle card is going to represent Will, because Will and Sonny are married. And then the card here on the right is known as the Writer, and he is going to represent Paul, who is the third person in this triangle. And in Lenormand, the writer can represent the lover of a gay man. And so Will had an affair with Paul, so that's why I'm going to let Paul be the writer. So again, we have Sonny, Will, and Paul. And so we're going to be looking in the reading to see where is Will. Since Will is asking the question, it's going to be interesting to see where his card shows up and when it shows up. The same with Sonny and the same with Paul. So now we're going to move on to the next segment. Okay, so now we have the cards all laid out. This is what the Grand Tableau usually looks like. This is one of two variations. This is called the Piquet Grand Tableau, and it consists of 4 rows of 8 cards. And then here at the bottom are the last remaining 4 cards. And this is called the Essence row, the row of fate or destiny. And it's usually referred to, any cards here are usually the bottom line of the tableau. So giving credit where credit is due, I learned this way of doing it from Paris Debono, who is the fortune teller in Australia. And he calls his variation of this the Lenono mini tableau, because it only consists of 20 cards corresponding with his deck, the Lenono deck, which has 20 cards in it. So like I said, so I'm doing this reading for Will Horton, who is a character on Days of Our Lives, and he is having a reading done, wanting to know if he is going to be able to salvage his marriage to his husband Sonny. So the first card, we start with the first card, and the first card always tells us what the topic is, or what is instigating the issue or playing a part in the issue. So the first card here is the cross. And so the cross is a card that represents difficulties, burdens. It's a crisis. It's something that's critical. So it's saying too that his marriage is in a critical state, and he has to carry the burden of repairing the damage that he's done because he's the one who had the affair. And so that's in the first position. So it's saying that it's about the arrival of something critical. It's a crisis point, and it's his burden. Okay, so now the card is number 36. So the way this works is that you go to the card in the 36th position, which is the last card, because this is the last card in the Lenormand deck. So we look at the card here, and the card is the fox. And so now the fox represents something is wrong. And it also represents a mistake. So now it's saying that Will is acknowledging with this card that he's made a critical mistake. And again, it shows that he is the one carrying the burden of repairing the damage done to his marriage because he's the one who cheated. And also too now, the fox is a card that represents someone being sly or cunning. And so what's going on now in the storyline is that Will is trying to get Paul, Sonny's ex, and the guy he wrote the story on, out of town. And so he's using underhanded means to do that. He's trying to blackmail Paul's mother into getting Paul out of town. So two things going on there. And then the last thing with the fox is that this is a card of job or employment. And so on a side note, Will is really intent on trying to make a name for himself with his career. So that's what the fox is about. So now the fox is numbered 14. So now the next card here is in the 14th position. So this is 16, so 2 over is, the moon. So this is exactly what I was just talking about. Whenever the moon card shows up, it talks about work, career, and fame and recognition. So really, even though Will is coming to see us about repairing his marriage, it's showing that right now one of the biggest concerns is his work and how that is influencing, and that's how Paul got introduced into the story, is because Will was doing a story on Paul. And Will didn't know that Paul and Sonny had a past. The other thing about the moon card when it shows up, it's a card that represents emotions. And so since it's playing off the idea of something being recognized, it's saying that Will now recognizes his mistake and how it has created this crisis that he now is finding himself in. Okay, so now the moon is card number 32. So 32 is, if you go 8, 16, 24, 32, this is the 32nd card. It's the house. And so now whenever the house shows up, it talks about domestic affairs and his home life. So now he is acknowledging that this is affecting his home life. So now the house is numbered 4, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4. And here, the card in the 4th position is the birds. So now the birds can indicate a partnership because there's 2 birds on the card, so it indicates a partnership, so it's a reflection of his marriage. It also represents Will's emotional state, that he's nervous. He's nervous about the possibility of Sonny, his husband, leaving him. So one of the things too is that they're having a difficult time talking about it because Sonny took off. When he found out about the affair, he left town. So that was hard for them to communicate if Sonny wasn't in the picture. So, and when Sonny left, Will became really nervous that Sonny might not come back and that they might not be able to save the marriage that way. But this is a conversation card, so they really need to work on talking about what happened and how they can move forward if Sonny chooses to do that. So that's the birds. And so that card is number 12. So then what you want to do is you want to look for the 12th card. And so this was 14, so 2 over is 12. This is the tree. And so whenever the tree comes up, it talks about family. So it's the the family is Will, his husband Sonny, and Will's daughter, Ariana. So it's about, again, talking about how they can save the family. So the tree is something that takes a long time to grow. So it could be saying too that this is going to take a long time to save, if it can be saved. The other thing about going back one card to the birds, going with Will's work, you know, this card can represent interviewing, which is how Paul came into the picture. They met, and it was over a process of conversation, several conversations, that the interview got done. So that's another card that, or you know, another way of looking at the birds, you know, through talking in that regard, since so much of this involves Will's work. So now you want to go to the fifth card, and the fifth card here next to the birds is going to be the stars. So now the stars can represent a couple of things. First off, it can represent hopes, wishes, and ideal situation. So this could be pointing to Will's wish and hope that his marriage is salvaged. It can also be a card that represents something online, and so the magazine that Will works for is called Sonics, and it's an online magazine. So that's another aspect of his working that shows up. So now the stars is number 16, so you want to look for the 16th card. So this is 16 right here, and this is the tower. So now the tower can represent a company, a corporation, an institution. So I would see this as the company that Will works for. So we have a lot of energy tied to Will's job and the work he does, and how that may be playing a part. He thinks it's about the affair, but it could be that and his work. So the tower is card number 19. So that was 16, 17, 18, 19. And now this is the storks. The stork is a card of change and improvement. So again, this is the idea of Will wanting to talk with Sonny, talk things out, so they could work on fixing the marriage. So that's that card. Now the storks is number 17. So counting 2 over, this is card 17. This is the snake. Okay. So now the snake represents a problem. It represents entanglements. It represents complexities and complications. So there are complications along the way. Now this also, again, represents the idea of Will being sneaky and plotting to get rid of Paul by having his mother get Paul out of town. The other thing about the snake is that the snake can represent a rival. It can also represent jealousy and envy. And so right now, part of Will's concern is that the longer Paul stays in town, the more of a chance that he could wind up losing Sonny to Paul. So he sees Paul as a threat that needs to be removed, but it's out of jealousy and envy. So now that was card 7. So you want to go to the 7th card next, and this is the whip. So now the whip can represent a conflict, a strife. It can represent heated words, an argument, and abuse. So Sonny could look at it as how Will abused his trust. And this is also a sex card. So he abused his trust by having sex with Paul. Regardless of whether Paul knew about Will and Sonny being married or not, Will made the choice to sleep with him. So this is a card that represents sex and abuse, conflict, and strife. And as a result of that, arguments taking place in the course of trying to fix what's going on. Now, another thing about the whip is that this is a card that represents sorting things out. So again, it's about working through something and sorting things out, which is what they're trying to do in order to fix their marriage. Okay, so now that's card number 11. So you want to count to 11. So that was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, this is the mice. So now whenever the mice shows up, it represents worry, stress, things being taken or diminished. So this could represent, the idea that Will believes that he's losing Sonny a little bit by little bit by little bit. But it is causing him worry and stress. Okay? So now the mice is card number 23. So you want to go 8, 16, 24. This is the 23rd card. This is the child. So I see this as Will's daughter, Ariana, and how he's worried about how that problem that he's having with Sonny is going to affect her. So I'm seeing this as Ariana. And so now this is card number 13. So you want to go to the 13th card in that. So this is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Here it is. This is the Crossroads. This is about a choice, options, moving in a new direction, and seeking some kind of alternative. What's the alternative? So I see this as, following the child card, that this is an alternative family, because we have two men raising a child. But it also points again to the decision. Now, Will is at a juncture here because he has to decide which is more important. A lot of these cards, like I said, reflect his career and his ambition towards that. So which path is he going to choose? Which is the one that's greater to him? The path that is his relationship with Sonny and his marriage and his family? Or is he more concerned about the path of his career? And it could be like, how can he have the best of both worlds? And it doesn't have to necessarily be one or the other. But it seems like with the way the storyline is going, he's going to have to choose one over the other. So he's having to say which, at this point in my life, which is the signpost, at this point in my life, which is more important to me, my marriage and my family or my career? Okay, so that's the Crossroads. Now that card is card number 22. So now this is 24, 23, 22. Okay, here we have Will. Finally, one of the character cards has shown up, and this is Will's card. So now everything that I have said really centers around Will at this point. So that's his card. And it's in the position or in the house of the fox. No. This is in the position of, no, I'm sorry, not the fox. It's in the position of the Crossroads, right? So this is again showing that the choice revolves around Will. This is his decision. Which path is he going to be on? What is he going to do? So that's that. And so now go to 28. So I said this was 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. This is the fish. Okay, so now when the fish shows up, it's all about money and wealth. This is also a card that can represent self-employment or entrepreneurship. So again, here is a work card following Will's card. So really, he's leaning more towards, it seems like, more and more with his work. So that's the fish. So now we want to go to the card in the 34th position. Okay, if this is 36, 35, 34. This is the bear. So now the bear represents power and strength. It also represents resources. So I find it very interesting that it would follow the fish card, because again, this is about business and resources used in that. The other thing about the bear, it can sometimes represent a situation or a person who is either overwhelming or overbearing. And so this could be a situation for Will that's becoming overbearing and he's overwhelmed with it. The other thing, this card is about power. So it's about Will taking the power in the situation, and the only way you can really do that is by accepting responsibility for what it is that you've done. The other thing that this card makes me think of is that this can sometimes be, for me, a mama bear. So I see this as Will becoming more like his mother, Sammy Brady. And so for those of you who've watched Days of Our Lives, you know that Sammy caused a lot of her own problems. And so it seems like Will is following in her footsteps. Okay, so that's the bear. And so now you want to go to the card in the 15th position, because this is card number 15. So if this is 16, this is 15. Now this is the bouquet. Whenever the bouquet shows up, it represents surprise. So I see this as letting me know, as a viewer of Days of Our Lives, there's lots of surprises still in store. This card can also be about invitation, so it's about Will asking himself, how did he invite this situation into his life? You know, again, it goes back to the choices and the decisions that he made. So he somehow invited this, and so part of the power, where I said with the bear and taking responsibility, is like he has to understand he invited this third party into his marriage by sleeping with Paul. Okay, so now that's the 9th card. So this is 8, this is 9, and this is the book. Okay, so now whenever the book shows up, it represents a mystery and a secret. It represents knowledge. So the secret here is that Will is plotting behind both Sonny and Paul's backs by trying to get Paul out of town. Now, side note about Paul, this card represents a secret pertaining to his biological father, because his mother has never discussed who Paul's father is, and it turns out Paul's father is in Salem. And so now the mystery is who's his father, and Will is trying to find that out as a way to make Paul's mother help him get Paul out of town. So this is about secret and mystery. So I see this tied to who is Paul's father. But again, now this is something that ties back to Will, his work, but also to his being like the fox and being clever and cunning and having a strategy, and the snake, which is deception. So I see those, and it's very funny that the book is in the same line with the snake, if you go down this way. So Will's thinking that it's critical, going to the cross, that he solves this mystery with the book about his rival and getting his rival out of town, who he sees as a complication. So those are those 3 cards together. Very interesting how those line up. Okay, so now I said we were here at the book. So the book is card number 26. So this is 24, 25, 26. And so now this is the garden. So whenever the garden card shows up, it represents something being open, something becoming public. So now this tells me that whatever it is about the mystery surrounding Paul's paternity, Will's going to figure it out, and it's going to become open to the public. So that's what I'm seeing here with this. So then this is card number 20. So then we want to go, this was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And here we have the letter. Okay, so now the letter represents news or message or information, something that becomes written. So it could be that Will is online in the Sonics magazine. So, but this is a document, so, or it could be like Will uncovers a document that states who Paul's biological father is, because Will's on the case. He's going to figure it out. Okay, and so we know with the garden that since this is a card about something open and public, it's going to affect a number of people in the community, because this card is about community too. It's about public social gatherings, but it's about community. So it's going to be open knowledge, and it's going to affect probably several people in the community, because that's what happens with secrets when they come out on soap operas especially. It doesn't just affect one person, it affects a number of people. So I'm seeing that. Okay, so we were here at the letter. So then the letter is the 27th card. So we want to find the 27th card. So we have 24, 25, 26, 27. Okay, now this is the clouds. Whenever the clouds comes up, it represents confusion, uncertainty, and something that needs to be clarified. So again, it could just represent this idea of whatever the information is, it's going to clear up some kind of confusion. Okay? Or it's going to create more confusion for Will. He's thinking that he's going to accomplish something, but the clouds could be a message or a warning that somehow is going to blow up in his face and is going to create more confusion. So that's the clouds. Now, in his question would be, if he was asking the question like I was proposing about what he could do to save his marriage, this card says his state of marriage is still going to be, no matter what is all going on here, it's still uncertain. It's still not clear. So things still need to be cleared up. So now it's card number 6. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and here's where the story's going to end, because this card is the Rider. It's the number 1 card, so we already have the card in position number 1 revealed. So this is Paul's card. So here we have a message that pertains to Paul. The confusion surrounds Paul, which again is about his father. The confusion surrounds whether Paul is going to leave town or not, because this card can represent the arrival of somebody. So it could. This is Paul. When Paul came into town, he created lots of confusion because Sonny and Will and Paul knew each other in some variation, but they all didn't know about the other person. So Sonny didn't know that Will and Paul had slept together. Paul didn't know that Will and Sonny were married. And Will didn't know at the time when he slept with Paul that Paul and Sonny had been involved before Sonny met Will. So that's a lot of confusion. So, but here's where the story's going to end, because this is Paul's card. Now it's very interesting. We have Will's card here and Paul's card here. Where's Sonny? So I'm going to turn some cards over to see just where Sonny was in the spread. Okay, so not there, not there, not there, not there, not there. Ah, look at this. Okay, so now here's Sonny's card. So very interesting, Sonny and Will are next to each other in the same spread. So here we have it where we have Sonny, Will, Ariana, their daughter, all in a row together. Very interesting. So now what we could do is look at the cards that are underneath Will and Sonny. And here we have a 9-card spread. We can take out and look at that, because I'm really intrigued with the fact that all 3 cards of the family are in the same line. So I'm going to end this video here, and in our next video we're going to take the 9 cards here and we're going to do a reading on those. This will be called the box spread. It's called a 3x3, or I like to call it a portrait spread. So in the next video coming, we'll do these 9 cards. So until then, I hope you enjoyed the reading.